Fags, what sort of captain was Dayne Zorko?
Well, I think he was an exceptional captain, and you know the coach and the captain always has a pretty close relationship. And Dayne took over as captain at a pretty difficult time in our footy club. I think I was in my second year. I think we might have played about 9 games, or 0-9 that year. And I think, you know, from the 2 years I'd been here, that our record was, I think, something like 26 losses and 5 wins up to that point in time. So we weren't flying. So he took over at a difficult time. And if you look back from when he took over as captain to now, we've gone from winning about 15% of our games to about 70% of our games. So his influence on that, he's not the only one that's influenced that, but he's had a tremendous role in it, mainly because of his positivity. He's got a real can-do attitude. His enthusiasm is infectious. In fact, you really notice when Zorks is flat, because he normally isn't. And he brought that to the table. And so he's been a huge part of our resurrection as a football team and club. And I'm incredibly grateful to him, as are all the players and all the staff, for what he's done over the last 4 or 5 years.
And I guess he's set a standard for whoever steps into the role?
Yeah, he has, and he's grown in the role. I mean, it's, you know, it wasn't something he'd given a great deal of thought to when he took over halfway through, I think, 2018. And so every year he's got a little bit better. He's evolved. He's way more sophisticated as a leader now than he was back then. There's more layers to him. So that's the pleasing part about it. He's learned on the job and got better.
How do you mean more layers, Fagan? We see the on-field version, the vibrant, energetic, sometimes pesky sort of leader, but we don't see behind closed doors. How has he added those layers?
Yeah, I think where he's really grown is his emotional intelligence off the field and understanding the differences between players and what motivates some doesn't motivate others, and he's worked out all of that. He's been able to read the bigger picture situations. He's developed the confidence to come and talk to me about if there's something going wrong with the game plan. He might have an idea about how it could be fixed. Early days, it was just about lead the team out and be enthusiastic, and he's built all those layers as he's gone along, and now he's an incredibly valuable asset to me, and he'll continue to be that. We'll make some changes to our leadership group and our captains, but whilst ever Zorks plays for the Lions, I'll still be talking to him like he was a captain, because you don't want to lose that resource.
You've mentioned how close you two guys are and how close a coach and captain has to be. What were the conversations like in recent times to get him to this decision?
So it's probably been a 2-year process, I reckon. We chatted 2 years ago about, well, he was 32 then, and I said, mate, there's going to come a time when you should think about whether you want to be captain or not. And I said, there's 2 choices there, mate. You can go until I come and tap you on your shoulder, or you can go until you think is the right time to change it and leave a legacy. And so that was 2 years ago. We decided coming into last year that it wasn't the time. We had another conversation, I reckon, early November this year, and similar conversation. And I said, look, I'm not going to ask you about it every week, but let's have a think about what you do, just like you did last year. And on Monday, I haven't spoken to him about it for 4 months. On Monday, I said, we're going to do our voting for the leadership group this week, Zorks. Have you worked out where you sit on things? And we had a discussion about that a little later on that day, and that's when he made the call. I think he was worried that I didn't want him to say that he didn't want to be captain. I had a very open mind about it, because I always wanted it to be his call. He deserves that. So he got that, and he's in great condition at the moment. I can't wait to see him play. I'm sure he's going to have a big impact on our club this year as well.
It feels like you've been smiling the whole way through this conversation. It feels like you think this is a good time for it to happen. Is it?
I'm always, and I'm not saying I would have tapped him on the shoulder this year, but I never wanted to do that because of what he's done for our club. So I'm so pleased that he's done it on his terms. That's what I'm happy about.
Do you think maybe just taking a bit of that responsibility off his shoulders will help him on the field this season?
Yeah, I think as you get a bit older, different things come into your life. He's got a couple of children. He's 34 now, so life after footy is more at the forefront of your mind than what it would have been 5 or 6 years ago. and your body gets a bit older, so you've got to look after it a little bit more. There's all of those things, so I think it will be better for him.
Dayne copped a bit of criticism last year for the sledging incident against Melbourne, and I know he copped a bit from the media and fans as well. Did that have any impact on this decision?
Well, not in the discussions that I had with him. I mean, it was to be honest, if we look back on that now, it was a bit of a storm in a teacup. That story, it was big at the time, but it sort of fizzled out, and there was much more to it than how it was originally reported. So, no, I mean, he continued as captain. He had a really good final series as our captain. To be honest with you, if it had been that serious, probably would have stood him down on the spot. But it wasn't. We did our investigation into it. It was regrettable that all that happened, but it wasn't as big and as bad as it was painted.
I know you probably don't want to speak on his behalf, but how difficult do you think it would be for him to come to this decision when you guys are in a premiership window? There's a chance, hopefully, if the cards fall your way this year, you might take a step or two more, and he's right there as potentially.
I mean, we don't want to jump the gun because we don't know what's going to happen this season, but it would have been massively difficult for him to make that decision based on the optimism that's around our football club, which is what you're talking about. But he's taken the selfless approach, so it's one of our key values, and that's what he's done. So I'm really proud of him for that.
So who captains this season?
That's a really good question that I don't know the answer to. We're voting this week, so that's player vote, and the coaches will get to vote. I have no idea who will come out on top, and that'll influence the decision a little bit. Once we've got our leadership group identified, then we want to find out, well, who wants to be captain. So we'll run a process around that. We'll probably interview them, and then we'll make a decision, sometime around the Geelong game, I reckon. I don't know whether we'll have one captain, two captains, I don't know. All things are on the table. You look at a club like Sydney and they had 3 captains last year, made a grand final. I know there's, traditional views out there that you only have one captain, but I think you've got to read your situation and see what's best for your group at any given time. So everything's an option at the moment.
So just to clarify, so this week the players will vote on the broader leadership group, and from there, you and the players will narrow that down to captains, captain, vice captain.
Yeah, we will. I'll say, I don't know how many will be in our leadership group. Let's say there's 7, and I'll say, righto, which of you guys in this leadership group want to be the captain of the Brisbane Lions Football Club? And I hope a few of them put their hand up. If one bloke puts his hand up, well, we know who the captain is. But if more than one does, then we'll run a bit of a process around that.
I read some things saying that Lachie Neale just wanted to focus on his footy and not worry about leadership. Is there any truth to that?
No, I don't. Not that I'm aware of. Lachie's a really important part of our leadership group. He's not indicated that to me at this stage. He might next week. I don't know.
But he could be in line, potentially.
Oh, look, I think we've got a number of players. I mean, I think you guys are naming names at the moment, which amazes me. Nobody's asked me, but the 3 that are getting talked about are obviously in the running. But blokes like Josh Dunkley and Jack Gunson have just turned up at the club. They're really experienced players with great leadership abilities, so they'd be up there for consideration. And we've got a real good group of young blokes coming through. I feel like when I first came to the club, we didn't have many leaders. Now I feel like we've got a lot, and that there's a challenge in that too, to make sure you pick the right ones in the right roles. But no, I'm confident we're going to have a really good formal leadership team, but also a great leadership group.
Do you think Zorks will be right for that Sydney game?
I don't think so. We won't take any risks with him. I mean, if you've been watching train today, he's running really well. But tendon things, you just got to give him a little bit more time. So it's easy to get to 95% of your pace, but that next little bit's the tough bit. So we'll just go as slowly as we need to with him. In the ideal world, he's playing against Geelong, but we'll have another hit out in between the Geelong game and round 1. So I expect to be right for round 1 unless he has setbacks. So that's where we're at with him.
Do we see any of the other guys on the way back from shoulders or whatever coming back on Friday?
Yes, I think we've got 4 guys that didn't play last Friday night that are back in. So Jack Gunson's back because he had to go to a wedding last week. Shadow Brain, Jared Berry and the fourth one is Jack Payne. So he's had his tonsils out. He's good to go now, so he's recovered from that. So we'll have those 4, and there'll be a couple more the following week. So they're all coming back in dribs and drabs over the next few weeks.
Thanks.
Thanks,
for
guys.
chatting today, Fagan.